With me is Richard Taylor, political blogger in Cambridge. Morning, Richard.
Good morning, Paul.
What's your first reaction to the result in Cambridge, the fact that it's gone red? I mean, many people predicted
it. It's not just gone red, it's gone red by quite a substantial majority. Labour are going to have a very comfortable majority with which to run Cambridge City Council.
And why do you think people have gone that way? Were they disillusioned with the Lib Dems and the way the city was being run?
Well, I do suspect that it's got something to do with the national picture with the Lib Dems in government. So I think our local Liberal Democrats here are probably suffering from the Liberal Democrats having joined in the coalition government. I don't think that people necessarily vote in local elections on local matters.
Yeah, what difference will it make on the ground, do you think? How will Labour run things differently?
Well, I think the basic thing that people get from the council is we get our bins emptied, and that kind of basic stuff will continue. So people might not notice a big difference. But Labour are promising some changes. I think we'll have a bit of a change of tone of the way that Cambridge is run. They're promising more enforcement officers. For example, they're going to double the number of enforcement officers tackling things like litter and dog fouling in the city. And we're going to see Labour promised a raft of new officers. We're going to have a living wage promotion officer. We're going to have an officer to promote Chesterton. We're going to have a new officer to encourage people to get water meters. So these are all things that I would consider them to be sort of local government non-jobs, really, and some of those are campaigning jobs, not the kind of things that I think we should be paying.
Have we not been here before with Labour, though? I mean, isn't this what got the country into mess in the first place? Well, exactly. All these jobs for the boys at the council.
Well, this is one of my concerns, that we will go into spending money on offices which are not necessarily the kind of thing that we shouldn't be paying local council officers to do. But then some of the things that Labour are proposing, you could have got them straight out of a Conservative manifesto. They're quite economically responsible things. They're going to invest more in the City Council's property portfolio to try and get us more independent income coming in for the council, which is an excellent thing, and which could, as I said, have come from the Tories.
Nigel Farage promised an earthquake in politics. We felt the first tremors in Peterborough overnight, but as usual, Cambridge is an island on its own in Cambridgeshire. Why is that?
Well, there's absolutely no sign of UKIP in the Cambridge City results. We only had one candidate standing across the city. Cambridge is a very different place from the surrounding area when it comes to the key issue that UKIP are campaigning on, immigration. Immigration is a very positive thing for Cambridge. It brings us students to our universities. It brings people to work in the local companies, and we don't have the side of immigration which is seen elsewhere in Cambridgeshire.
You voted UKIP, did you? You blogged you were going to.
Well, it's a secret ballot, so I don't have to tell you how I voted. But yeah, in the European Union elections, I did, yes. I want to see us change our relationship with the EU, but quite what we get out of it at the end, whether we withdraw from the EU or whether we have a substantial renegotiation, I think either option is a good one. So if anything, that's a vote to encourage the Conservatives to get on and properly renegotiate our position with the EU. Dismantle the bureaucracy.
Stay with us, Richard, because we'll talk some more about Cambridge throughout the hour. This from David says, I see Tim Ward failed to hold on to his ward in Arbury, which is ironic.
It is.
Thank you. Richard, who blogs in Cambridge, of course, Richard Taylor, looking at the political scene in Cambridge. After the travel, we'll speak to the man who's still hoping to hold on to the reins at Peterborough City Council, Marcos Oresti.
BBC Radio Cambridgeshire.
We'll be joined by Tim Bick, by the way, the leader of the Lib Dems in Cambridge, shortly. They've lost control of the council, of course. We can hear, though, the reaction to Cambridge going red, Labour taking control. Lewis Herbert spoke to Emma Haujigar, our reporter, earlier.
It's 14 years. I've been a councillor for 10 years. When the Euro elections were fought 5 years ago, we had 9 councillors, and we don't yet know exactly how many we've had, but as you say, we've taken control of the city, and we've got the opportunity to tackle a whole range of challenges that face us. We've got a housing crisis, we've got congestion issues, we've got issues of fairness in a city like this. Not everybody's got the same benefits out of the prosperity that the Cambridge is experiencing.
Now, a little bit earlier this evening, when I was down the cafe here, I did see some champagne on ice. Have you gone and bought that yet?
I've got a bottle of Prosecco in the office. I'm afraid life isn't full of wine and roses. We've got to get on with the job. But yes, we'll have a short celebration, but there's a lot of work to be done, and we've got a great team of new candidates who've been elected tonight.
What do you think, out of all the awards you've won, has been your biggest achievement?
Well, what tends to happen in elections is that the political parties fight to the death in a couple of wards, and you've seen recounts in 2 of them, and those haven't yet been announced. And we have also put up a huge effort in wards. Romsey is probably the most unexpected result of the night. We've won a seat where the mayor has stood, which the Lib Dems have been winning comfortably the last couple of years. And we took Market, which we haven't won in a generation.
It's Labour leader Lewis Herbert. His reaction to Labour winning Cambridge for the first time in over a decade. Still with me, Richard Taylor, a political blogger in Cambridge. You mentioned earlier there's going to be some tribalism. There's going to be jobs for the boys, in your opinion.
Well, certainly the new council officers which Labour are proposing, the new enforcement officers, the new living wage officer, a water meters officer, a Chesterton promotion officer, they're not the kind of jobs which I think Cambridge really needs. It's not where I want to see our taxpayers' money spent, and that's the kind of thing we're now going to see with Labour running Cambridge City Council with a massive majority.
Tim Bick, the leader of the Lib Dems in Cambridge, of course, former leader, is with us now. Tim, good morning.
Good morning, Paul.
Well, it was a massive slap in the face for you, wasn't it?
It's not an evening I would like to repeat.
Yeah. Why? Why did people punish you?
Well, I think there's a reality about how difficult it is for a party in national government to retain local council power at the same time. What we saw when Labour were 3 months into Tony Blair's government was Labour losing control of the City Council to us. We're now 4 years into the coalition government in which we're part, and we have lost to Labour. I'm not sure that it has a whole lot to do with the record of the Liberal Democrats in the City Council. I think on the doorstep, people were telling us that they were really quite happy with a lot of what we were doing, but they had a message that they wanted to send to government, and that took precedence.
So you're blaming your national party. You're not saying you failed locally to share the love, to make everybody feel the affluence that Cambridge has. You're blaming Nick Clegg.
No, that's not what I said.
Well, you sort of did.
That it's difficult when your party is in government, and that's really whichever government and whichever party we're talking about. Mid-term, people like to express their discomfort if they have some.
Did you do everything perfectly then locally, do you think? Did you do everything you could have done?
Well, I'm sure we have made mistakes, but I really don't think that those mistakes explain the results that we've had today.
It's a resounding defeat, isn't it?
Well, it's a defeat that started 3 years ago because the council elects its councillors in thirds on a cycle. So we have lost seats in those previous 3 years.
Is a Labour-led council good for Cambridge, in your opinion?
Well, obviously, I don't think so. And our role on the council now will be to hold that Labour council to account, to make sure that they don't squander the legacy that we have left them, which is really quite an impressive one, and to ensure that some of those concerns that Richard Taylor was talking about, the fact that Labour is so hooked on enforcing people to do things or not do things, the danger is that we lose the tolerant and preventative approach that we have adopted when we've been running the council.
Julian Huppert, the Lib Dem MP, of course, for Cambridge, says you can go out of office with your heads held high. Do you go out of office with your head high?
We absolutely do. When I talk about the legacy, I'm talking about having delivered the £500 million city deal. I'm talking about having delivered a local plan that will take the area through to 2031. I'm talking about schemes which have been hugely popular across the city for 20-mile-an-hour zones. I'm talking about putting the needs of the vulnerable first, which we've always put as top priority. I don't think that we have anything to be ashamed of and everything to be extremely proud of, and I think we have set the standard that Labour will have to be judged by.
Is Cambridge safe in Labour hands?
I accept the result of the electorate, and I congratulate them.
It's not the question I asked.
I have my questions, as I think a lot of people do. I think
What are they?
the concerns I worry about Labour defending the careful balance between pressures on growth and protecting the character and setting of the city when our local plan comes to public inquiry. I'm worried about the way they'll treat the city's voluntary sector. So focused they've been on emphasising the tribes of us and them in the city, I worry about how they'll manage to govern for the whole city fairly. I mentioned enforcement. I also worry about them turning the city council into an anti-government propaganda machine and not governing in the whole long-term best interests of the city. Now, these things are concerns. I sincerely hope they don't happen. But we as an opposition will be there to point out, to campaign, and to win back power if those things do happen.
Tim, thank you very much. Tim Bick, leader of the Lib Dems until this morning, leader of Cambridge City Council. You heard him there. He has very real concerns that Cambridge might not be safe in Labour hands. Just quickly, Richard Taylor, political blogger. Do you share those concerns?
Well, as Tim just said there, I think we have got some very red socialist partisan tribal Labour councillors who've been elected this morning, and it'll be very interesting to see how that how they cope in power.
That's Richard Taylor, a political blogger in Cambridge. His comments will keep coming. We'll also have experts from Peterborough as well coming on the show later on. But first, let's speak to the new leader, we presume, at Cambridge City Council. He's the leader of the Labour group, and Labour have taken control. Lewis Herbert is with us this morning. Lewis, congratulations.
It's been a long night, Paul, but thank you.
And I presume you'll be the leader of the City Council?
Well, it all changes on the 12th of June.
Yeah.
So,
but you're the man.
Well, we won 6 seats, and we now have a majority of 8 and 25 Labour councillors.
Yeah, and not a great night for Labour nationally, though, was it? Not the night that you needed, really.
I'm happy to say I don't know nothing about it, but
that's a good dodge, I'll give you that. Lewis, a great night in Cambridge, though. We spoke to Tim Bick earlier, and he was very, very disappointed. You could hear almost anger in his voice, really, that they'd been deposed. Why do you think people went for Labour's message rather than the Lib Dems this time around?
Well, I think the Lib Dems have lost touch with parts of Cambridge. They were paying people to deliver leaflets in 3 of the wards, and those just kind of told the story that they're not in touch with the whole city.
What are Labour going to do differently then?
Well, I think we will take account of the whole city. There are parts that the Lib Dems have neglected. We will particularly look at the opportunities from growth, which we will support, including attracting AstraZeneca, but we have to ensure that the benefits are shared much more fairly. So we'll tackle that. We'll also give housing much more priority, and we've got quite a lot of changes to services to take account. It won't all be easy. The government has cut our funding by 40%, and we'll have to become more efficient as a council. We've got a great staff, and it's a partnership with them and the other organisations to make Cambridge an even better place.
Yeah, there are concerns, though. I mean, we spoke to Richard Taylor earlier, a blogger in Cambridge. He's with us now. Richard, your concerns are?
Well, Labour have told us that they're going to increase the number of enforcement officers the City Council has to deal with things like dog fouling and littering. I'm concerned about the change of the tone of the city if we have more enforcement officers. And Labour have promised a raft of what I would call sort of local government non-jobs, things like a living wage officer, an officer to help people or encourage people to transfer to have water meters, and a Chesterton coordinator to promote local business in Chesterton. I'm just not sure that these are the kind of officers we need in the local council, and if we should be spending our taxpayers' money in that way on campaigning, essentially.
Lewis, how do you respond to that?
Well, Richard's entitled to his view. He's a valued blogger. He's uncovered a lot of issues for the city. But on my way into the account last night, I passed 2 parks which had been trashed by people, and the cost of clearing that up will be £500, £1,000. Some of those people should get tickets, and we think Mr Taylor hasn't thought it all through.
Is it not just the same old Labour, though, that we had before? Non-jobs in councils, thousands of people earning money out of the public purse that we can't afford?
We're proposing about 6 new jobs, and some of those will be redeployments, and the question of living wage is a massive issue for this city. Lots of people can't afford to live here, live the kind of housing that they need, and perhaps Mr Taylor might think through whether people should be paid the living wage in this city.
You've not thought it through, Richard?
Well, of course, I want people to be able to live on what they earn, but it's a question of how we go about doing that. Do we have an officer in the City Council whose job it is to do campaigning, or should the campaigning be done by people like our councillors and individuals? We don't disagree on the aims here. It's how we go about doing it.
We're talking about a part-time officer, and we're talking about employers, including the university and colleges and large employers in this city, who are not paying what people deserve to be earning.
What's the first thing that you're going to do? Day one, Lewis, what is going to change?
Well, the simplest change will be to reverse the cut in rat and pest control, which will happen as of the council meeting on the 12th of June.
That's the most important thing in your intro.
No, it is not. We will also set up a housing committee, a single housing committee, and we'll be doing a lot to improve affordable housing in this city. So it will not all happen straight away. Some of it will require careful thought and consultation, and we will listen to views, including Richard Taylor's, but we're determined to improve the city and make the best of the growth that's underway, tackle the congestion.
Lewis, thank you for that. Thank you for coming on this morning. It's been an amazing night for Labour in Cambridge. Well done.
Thank you.
Lewis Herbert, who's the leader of the Labour group at Cambridge City Council, who've taken control in Cambridge, not just by a small margin, by quite a large margin. It's your Bigger Breakfast election special. Before we go to the news, just very quickly, Richard Taylor, the blogger from Cambridge, still here. The Labour victory in Cambridge, where, in a nutshell, does it leave the city of Cambridge, in your opinion?
Well, we've got a massive majority for Labour, so that they will be able to run the council as they see fit. And I'm not a great fan of having such a big majority, because it means that decisions will be made behind closed doors in group meetings rather than on the floor of the council chamber.
Richard, thank you for coming in this morning. Richard Taylor, blogger in Cambridge. We'll have expert opinion on Peterborough and other places throughout the show.